Okay then. So I had all sorts of snarky remarks prepared to to intro this first of a series of tracking analyses of this guy John Sirasani. And then I thought, you know what? Numbers speak louder than words in this particular case. So this is just 125 bets in the first session that I've analysed of Mr. Sirasani's. And it's a classic example of how not to tackle the game of blackjack. Um, the first thing to notice, I suggest, is the red line here. This chart is the AV, the actual value, or the flat bet value. What would happen if you bet the same amount every single time? And you would have ups and downs that look like this. The light green line there is Sirasani's play in this session. And if you don't see a similarity between this and this, then I don't know what to tell you. It's quite clear. This is the performance of the pattern betting algorithm against exactly the same outcomes. Okay, and I want to be really clear about that. There is no difference between what you see down here in this column, column D, and what was played by Sirasani through this particular session. And I think there are going to be 4 or 5 more that I'm adding. And I decided I wanted to do it chronologically simply because, you know, there's always the possibility that he's going to turn out to be the best in the world and that he had a sort of a long game that I wasn't smart enough to understand. But the reality in this first 125 bets is his game really sucks. Let's have a look at where his game actually is. And I mean, the guy is astoundingly poor at this game. If you look at his bets, they're shown here. It's pretty much 1,000 all the way. I mean, he goes completely bloody nuts down here. What I like to call a fail Mary. 2,000, 2,500, 2,500, 5,000. So he's got 10,000 on the table just here. And the rest of the time, I mean, his performance is just unbelievable. I mean, it's his money. He can do whatever the hell he wants. I'm not arguing against that. You know, I mean, obviously, it's his money, and I assume it's real money. And I assume from the fact that he's got over 400,000 devoted fans, I assume that you know, that he's getting his money back at least from YouTube, but he certainly isn't winning it at blackjack if he continues to play like this. I think that the things that I want to draw attention to here are pattern betting had a couple of serious slumps. One here where it actually went 4,750 in the hole. Another one here where it barely went in the hole at all. But I mean, that's against the bankroll. Let me explain that. When I say in the hole, I mean, you know, sort of like the bankroll is starting to get stressed. Here it was only, as you can see from the drop down there, 1,100 into the bankroll. But before that slump, we were at, come on, show up, you little bugger. There it is. We were at 8,200. So that was nearly a $10,000 swing against us before we recovered. And going back down here, what you will see is that his action, JC Goat, I'm calling him, his action was 230,000. Mine was about a third of that. Oh, I beg his pardon. Algae's was about a third of that, right? Here, less than a third actually. Algae won 14.3% of action against the same outcomes as Sirasani. He lost 16,750. Now that is more than he says in this particular video. He talks about it being 10,000 or something like that. But I'm a bit stuck because all I can do is make a note of his bets, make a note of the outcomes, obviously, and I include his multis here. When you when you decide to yourself, okay, I'm not losing enough right now, so I'm going to bet more. I'm going to bet extra hands. I've never got the sense of that, but those extras cost him 4,500 on top of the 12,250 that he lost over here. I'm not going to quibble with anybody over the nitty gritty. All I can tell you is that I tracked his action very carefully. Accuracy is something that's essential to what I'm trying to do here. And of course, to the guys on YouTube, accuracy isn't important at all. They pretend that they're playing with real money, which technically they are, but they are playing with this golden safety net from Google beneath them. I've started calling it Moogle, actually, as a cash cow, but that's because I love very bad puns. I can't help myself. Years and years of writing headlines. What can I tell you? But anyway, he's got lots of money coming in from his YouTube activities, and he's pissing it up the wall every time he sits down to play blackjack. I just watched his latest one. I didn't record it, but it popped up, and so I thought, okay, I'll just zoom to the end, and he's jumping up and down about how he won 3,500 or something during the course of that session, and here he is in this one, down 16,750. This is madness, people. But anyway, going back up here, it was a very, very slight house advantage in this first session of John's, and it kicked his ass. On the other hand, in spite of 54 wins and 62 losses, pattern betting managed to make a very decent amount of money. 10,413 over 72,675. And going back down here again, spreads for JC Goat were from 500 to 5,000, which is only 10 to 1. Algae spread from 25 to 9,600. And yeah, I get that people are going to say, that is bloody crazy. I can't do that. Nobody could do that. Nobody could do that at the same table. Blah, 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 blah. But what we're dealing with here is mathematics. Okay, we're looking at arithmetic. We are simply saying that you must win more when you win than you lose when you lose, or you will get your ass kicked. That's it. So, a little bit of perspective here. JC Goat managed an average win of 1,218 versus an average loss of 1,154, which is as near as, damn it, even Stevens. But, he 106%. Algae, average win 606. Note that it's half the size of his average win. Average loss 343. Note that it's less than a third of his average loss. Algae's average win to average loss 177%. The other thing that matters here is that his average bet was 1,730, and he lost near enough 10 of those, right? Algae's average bet was 583, and he won 18 of those, 18 times his average bet versus JC Goat's loss of 10 times his average bet. So, this is the stuff that really matters. This is the bottom line. This is where the rubber meets the road. And yeah, there are people out there who think that I'm cheating, that I'm fiddling, that I'm faking all this stuff. I mean, it's such a ridiculous idea because why the hell would anybody do it? I'm not selling anything. I'm not twisting anybody's arm to do anything. I'm just trying to get the word out to thinking people, if there is such a thing as a thinking gambler, to simply say, look, guys, don't play these games without a lot of money behind you. Excuse me. And don't play these games unless you have a plan. And this plan, pattern betting, is just a suggestion. I've never said that it's the best in the world. I couldn't possibly say that it's the best in the world any more than I would bother to argue with Sirasani when he says he's the greatest player in America or on the planet. I don't know, whatever. I mean, mediocrity, what do they say? They used to say, mutton dressed up as lamb. I just, I'm agog at the fact that anybody who plays as badly as he does, at least in this first session, anybody who plays as badly as he could even think that he can touch people who make their livings from blackjack. And in one of his videos, he talks about spending some time with Don Johnson, who's supposed to be the greatest blackjack player in America, but only because he killed Borgata in Atlantic City for over 12 million. And he only did that by getting rebates. He had a deal with them, which was so bad for the casino. Whoever agreed to that, I assume, is now out of a job, probably working in landscape gardening or something like that. I mean, good grief. He just got enormous, he would lose a lot of money, get a huge chunk of change back, a rebate out of like, I don't know, 3 million. So let's say they gave him 10%, all right? So he loses 3 million, gets back 300,000, builds the 300,000 into 5 million. And so when you start to do the sums, Mr. Johnson certainly is a very clever blackjack player, but that wasn't what made him the money. What made him the money was the deal that he got from Borgata. So anyway, end of this particular part of the Sirasani saga. And I think I'm going to be able to prove, not to him, because obviously he's completely armor-plated, but maybe to a few other people out there that possibly Sirasani is not the best that ever played. So there you have it. Anyway, next time. All right then. So the Blackjack King of America, the self-appointed whatever, he kicked Algy's ass this time. Not that Algy lost, not at all, but Sirasani's method of play, if that's what it is, seems to depend entirely on winning more bets than he loses. And that sort of particular philosophy, combined with the dirty martinis that he sips his way steadily through while he's playing, will combine to destroy him if he doesn't change his ways pretty damn soon, I think. The other problem I've got is that I caught a tail end of a video in which he was saying something along the lines of, we got wrecked in the last couple of days, so we didn't do any videoing. We didn't video anything. We didn't make any videos, whatever, words to that effect, And that really bothers me because it's an indication of something that's been pretty clear for all the time that I've been researching these YouTube gambling sinfluencers, as I prefer to call them. That it's quite clear that they only show us what they want us to see, and they sprinkle in a reasonable number of losing sessions so that the winning sessions are dramatically different. They're a different kind of vibe and the whole thing. And they don't they don't show us everything. They just show us what they think is going to improve the drama and therefore the appeal of their channel and so on. And cherry picking like that is just downright dishonest. There's no doubt about that at all. I mean, bad enough that these guys insist we're playing with real money. Well, if you're Vegas Matt and you're making $500,000 a month, then losing 400,000 in the first 8 months, 7 months, or whatever of the year is nothing. I mean, yeah, it's real money, but without that money, flowing backwards and forwards, he'd have nothing to show the world. He'd have nothing for his baying, drooling, weirdly kind of hooked fans to watch. So it's kind of like, a painter who's guaranteed 100,000 for the next piece of shitty art that he produces with daubs all over the place and colour splashed and Jackson Pollock style or whatever, saying, well, yeah, I got 100,000 for the painting, but damn it, I had to pay for the paint and the easel and the brushes, and I had to spend time on it. It's that kind of stupidity, and I honestly believe Vegas Matt and his crew think everybody else in the world is thick as a brick, as Princess Diana used to say about her own IQ. Or was it thick as two short planks? But anyway, it's insulting. It really is. This whole argument back and forth now between Mr. Handpay and Vegas Matt about who's playing with real money and who isn't. None of them are playing with real money in real world terms because they have their safety net. They are not going to get hurt in the long term because Google, which I'm now calling Moogle because of the cash cow aspect of Google, Google is going to look after them. And what they have to do is they've got to create the content. To create the content, well, it's like, breaking eggs for an omelette and all the rest of it. That's all it is. So anyway, I do like to rant. I'm sorry about that. But I know there are a lot of people out there who agree with me, so I'm not going to apologize. So Sirasani, this time, on this particular session, his average bet, pretty much the same as last time, was 1,157. And because he won more bets than he lost, he won 10.6, nearly 11 times his average bet by the end of the day. Again, I had a different number for him at the end. Last time I had him losing a lot more than he said. This time I had him winning a lot more than he said. And I can't explain that because I go through his bets very carefully. And occasionally it's a little bit difficult to know what he's betting, but I use the transcript beside the video to try and double check if I can't see correctly or, the great guys are Degen Dalt, who is at least as bad a blackjack player as Sirasani and does not claim to be the world's greatest. But Degen Dalt, no idea what his real name is, he has a fantastic editor who puts every bet up. Every bet and the bankroll as it's diminishing or increasing. And that's wonderful for someone like me. Maybe the sort of spacey bunch who watch these things on a regular basis, hours a day for some of them, maybe they don't care about that kind of stuff. But to me, if you're not making it clear exactly what you're putting at risk and how much you're getting back or losing, then, you're not playing it straight. Pattern betting this time, average bet was 737, which is sort of like about 70% of Sirasani's bets. Algie won 5.3 times his average bet. Let's go back up to pattern betting. I'm not quite sure where I'm at with that, actually, whether I'm at the top or... Oh, here we go. Okay. So these are the algorithm bets, and some of them are very high. But that's how you have to play the game. The Sirasani method, whatever, what he's doing is he's 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, just to go back down here. You look at this. The guy he's got no method at all other than, oh shit, I hope I win more often than I lose. And once again down here, you got another one of these fail Mary bets. He bets 2,500 twice, wins 2,500 twice, then bets 3,000, loses that, immediately drops down to 1,000, which makes no sense, and wins a double down. It's just potty. But going back to pattern betting, the player advantage for this data set, 9.4%. Pattern betting won 6.2% of its total action, 4,000 near enough, over 65,000 of action. And what's his face? His action was 120,500. He won 11,250 according to my count. He said 10,000, and that's 11.3%. So he kicked pattern betting's arse this time. But let me tell you in advance, let me give you a prediction, and that is that if he puts up honest videos in which he's getting his backside kicked because of his peculiar method of betting, he says, that's not my play. When people complain about the fact that he doesn't increase his bet on the winning streak, he just says, that's not my play. But I mean, look at this, how silly this is. This time, at least, he did a little bit towards increasing his bet. But by now, here, he's, I don't know, thousands down, and he hits a winning streak, and he does nothing with it. Maybe a little bit. Okay, so, he's upped it from 1,000 to 1,500 to 1,500 to 2,000 to 2,500, 2,500, 3,000, and then bam! As soon as he loses, back down to 1,000. This bet should have been probably about 5,000, but I don't know. Where were we in that? Algae plays in a whole different way. I mean, with a much lower kickoff point, a much lower unit. And Sirasani and his ilk and his friend Jason Bulkey, Mr. Handpay, does exactly the same thing, and the King of the Hill, the real King of the Hill, Vegas Matt, also bets pretty much the same way as Sirasani. So after a while you start to think, okay, what's going on here? Is the casinos are saying to people, okay, you can film, you can do whatever you want at blackjack, baccarat, whatever. But if you're away from the slots, don't do anything to teach people how to win. We need you to play like a yahoo. We need you to play stupid, to play dumb, to play the fool when you're filming table games. And they're all doing that. And then, of course, getting compensated by Moogle. So that's it for now. I will put up number 3 in due course. But I tell you something, Sirasani is not the king of blackjack by any stretch. But I think maybe he could claim to be, what was that wonderful song? I mean, Peter somebody or other, way back, it's probably 20 years old, something like that. The King of Wishful Thinking. That's a great tune. I actually asked Alexa to play it for me this morning because I remembered it fondly. It's a great song, but I can't ask her to do it now because it's probably copyright, and I'll get the deep doo-doo if I play it for you folks. So there we are. Sirasani beat Algae this time. If he plays it straight in the next couple, or however many it turns out to be that I do with this guy, it's useful for me because you get to see how incredibly dumb these so-called professionals really are. Whether they want to wear crowns, claim that they're brilliant, do a Donald Trump and say that there's nobody better or whatever, I mean, I saw Trump the other day on a video looking like absolute hell, wearing this huge, oversized red baseball cap, which said Trump was right about everything. Talk about delusion. Bloody hell. All right, then. So the King of Wishful Thinking says in his latest video, at least the third of the ones that I've done so far. This is what he calls the finale of Hard Rock at Tampa. He says in that very clearly that he doesn't give a toss about what anybody says in the comments about his style of play, because his style of play is the right way to play blackjack, and anybody who says otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. So, I mean, you've got to admire the guy's confidence. It's reminiscent of a kind of a basic attitude at the top of the power tree currently in the United States. I don't give a shit what you think. I'm always right. And, I guess it's fashionable these days. I try not to adopt the same attitude. All I ever do is I just lay the numbers out. Say, okay, guys, this is what happened, and this is how it is, and take it or leave it, believe it or not. That's my approach. I certainly have never ever claimed a crown as the greatest blackjack player or blackjack analyzer or any of those things who ever lived. That's not my thing at all. And hey, I just remembered to pull the plug out on Alexa, so we may not get interrupted so much this time. I should do that every time. Um, but anyway, just to sort of like go down to the bottom of the current set. Um, According to my numbers, and my numbers definitely differ from his, but generally I tend to be more generous than he is, so I don't quite know how that works. But according to my numbers, Mr. Sarasani, the goat, the king of the hill, won 13,700, which is 11.1% of his total action. If he'd been matching the actual value for this session, he would have won 12.4%, but he fell short of that, and that's largely because he insists on flat betting, more or less. I mean, it's pretty close to flat betting, and he's absolutely convinced that that's the only way to go, which of course makes no sense logically, mathematically, from experience. He's basically, the other thing is, he is, to me, apart from the king of wishful thinking, is the king of missed opportunities, because just like Vegas Matt, he lets terrific winning streaks mostly slide by. I mean, here he got a win, a double down win, a win, and by the time he got to here, he was betting sort of like back above his normal of 1,000 every time. He bet 2,200 here, and then he dropped right after that win. He dropped to 1,100. Then he dropped even further to 500. I mean, there's some kind of strategy going on here which I'm clearly not smart enough to understand, and I mean that partially sincerely, because the guy says he's never lost anywhere. And if you take a regular gambler at face value, is that a good idea? Well, I don't know. But if you take him at face value, then obviously he's doing something absolutely amazing that's going straight over my head. What I know from my own experience of 40 years of playing, some 40 plus years of playing blackjack. Damn, it's probably closer to 60 actually. Oh Jesus, I'm so fucking old. Anyway, you know that's impossible, but he insists, and so what can you say? Let's have a look here. He should have won based upon the actual value, which was a very, very powerful player edge in this session. Based upon that, he should have won 17,000, 18,000. He actually won 14,000, so he fell short. Based on Algy's action, Algy should have won 1,900 and instead won 5,000. So there's a big difference there, as you can see. Up here, his average bet, because he rarely differs from 1,000, his average bet is 1,122. So he won 12 of those. Algy's average bet was 124, which is, sort of considerably less. And Algy won 40 average bets. So this kind of stuff is, here is Sirasani saying, I don't give a shit about what anybody says. I don't care about anybody's opinion. I don't care about facts. I don't care about numbers. Stuffed a lot of them. They don't know what they're talking about. But, sensible people have to think about the numbers, and that's really what I'm doing here. I mean, I'm not being paid for this. I'm spending more than half my life doing this, just as I have for the last many, many decades. And it's based entirely on what I've seen in Nevada over the years, and that is people who are ignorant and stupid, causing themselves horrendous grief because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're up against. They are woefully inadequately set up to take on the kind of challenge that exists on these games. And, I have tried, I mean, when I was living in Nevada and playing regularly in Nevada, if I was ever asked what I thought somebody should do, if somebody said to me, well, what do you think I should do next? Then I'd tell them. And once in a blue moon, I would step in if a dealer gave bad advice or somebody else gave bad advice to a player. I would say, hey, wait a minute. That's just not a good idea. What you need to do here is such and such, and I'll cover you. I've done that a few times. I mean, over the many years that I was in Nevada playing in casinos, it wasn't that many, but I was certainly ready to do it if somebody was given shit advice, or if somebody asked me for advice. I would usually say, this is what I think you should do. If that's not what you think you should do, then I will cover you against that. There was a time in the early days of my visits to the Golden Nugget, which was a casino that back in the day I really loved. I wasn't very fond of the owner, a guy who went on to be even more famous in Las Vegas, but I did like the casino very much. And a lot of that, I think, came from the attitude of the guy who ran the place then. He was a poker player, an internationally known poker player. I forget his name, something like Phil or Paul or something like that. I should look him up, shouldn't I? But he was great. And what you could do in those days is you could bet on somebody else's hand. You could say to somebody, for instance, well, I think you should double those. I'll go with you on it, and that was encouraged. It made blackjack that much more fun. But they stopped that. They became really kind of prissy and paranoid about blackjack as the years went by. And I mean, I just watched a video about a guy who caught the cashier miscounting his winnings, and he was only 100 off. But the minute he said, "Okay," he challenged the cashier and said, "Okay, I want that recounted again." The casino immediately picked up all his money and wrapped a rubber band around it and took it away and refused to pay him at all. So I don't know where that was. I don't know whether it was an Indian casino. Certainly if it was in Nevada, then that would be a very big jump up and down because it was all on video. But I suspect that it was probably a Native American casino, because I have nothing against Native Americans. My God, I lived in an area where they were all over the place and they were great. Well, some of them were. Just like your foreigners, your what the hell do the Indians, Native Americans call white men? White men, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, it's pretty rude. A whole lot of white men were shits, and a whole lot of Indians were shits. And that's the way the world is, and that's the way humanity is. So there you have it. Anyway, just looking at the GOAT this time. He won. Well done. Terrific. He's now, according to me, 11,950 ahead. He would differ with that. But then he has this weird thing where he will actually say on a video, we got absolutely wrecked yesterday, so we didn't get any videos done, which to me is like a huge red flag. That is somebody actually admitting that if they don't do well, then they obviously he must be killing the video when he says we got no videos made. In other words, nothing that we want to put online, because you can't know in advance whether you're going to win a session. So you start videoing it, and then you say, "Oh, this is shit. So let's stop the cameras, let's stop the phone, whatever." But anyway, never mind. Back to number 2 in the session, because I've got a little more sophisticated in the way I do things in this thing. This is the number 2 one, where he again had a player advantage, and this does make it a bit suspicious. But there we go. Again, he had a player advantage session. He won 11,341, which was not even 100 more than what he should have won, given his action multiplied by the actual value. Again, a player edge there. And then we go up to the very top, and we get a somewhat different story. There was an actual value that was just a shade under 1% against the player. He should have lost given his action against multiplied by the actual value, should have lost about 1,300. Instead, he lost more than 10 times that. Algae should have lost 600 action multiplied by actual value, and instead won 10,400. So that's how things are currently. And the one thing I haven't done here is look at the very top and update the graph, the charts. So I'm going to do that. Stop the clock. All right, so this is the top of the worksheet. As you can see, overall a flat AV of 6.4% for the player. So this is what is starting to worry me about these Sirasani sessions. They're looking like Mr. Handpage, Jason Bulkey's looking very suspicious, because you can't have a representative number of outcomes in which there's a player edge. It just doesn't make sense, because there wouldn't be casinos if that were the norm. I mean, that's just it's just not believable. The most important thing is that King Sirasani, this is his play, his progress tracked. This is the actual value, and as I've said before, if you can't see how closely that mirrors this, then I'm doing something wrong here, because Christ on a bicycle, you couldn't get much closer to the AV than that. And this is why his claims that he's ahead don't make sense. I'm not going to call the guy a liar, because I don't know him, but all I can say is that his numbers are suspect. Okay, the dark green here is the pattern betting algorithm, and as you can see, every so often there's a really serious bit of nasty, but not that many, really. Currently, Algae is running at we've got 145 wins and 147 losses, right? That's the net. That's the one up here. Which shows us a minus 1.6. The 6.4, sorry, that's the gross. I apologize. That is the gross number. The net number up here takes into account 3-2 payoffs on naturals and successful or unsuccessful, whichever. Double downs and splits and multis and so on. So it's a 6.4 net in favor of the player. All of these numbers really matter if you want to beat these games. If you want to be King Sirasani and pretend that you're kicking shit out of the house everywhere you go. I mean, he's got this little kind of list that he does in one of his recent videos where he goes, Red Rock so-and-so, never lost, never lost, never lost, Well, good for him, I say, and he deserves his crown, because he is unique among blackjack players in that, of course, he doesn't have to tell us the whole truth, does he? That's the problem. Going back down to here, what we're looking at right now is the greatest of all time. King Sirasani is at ahead 12,700 on action of 513,400. So his win over action is 2.5%. If he were doing it right, sorry, no, he can't be doing it wrong. I've got that wrong. So if he were reflecting the actual value here, then he would be considerably further ahead. Algae is up 19,300 on action, which is less than a third of the goats, and Algae's win is 12.6% of total action, which is a bit closer to what you need. The goat spread from 500 to 5,000, which is 1 to 10, and that's pretty standard for him. Algae went from 25 at the bottom end up to 9,600, which has been the max throughout this. I mean, it was right at the very beginning, it was 9,600. So that's 384 to 1. the goat is managing 112%. His average winning value is 1340. Average loss is 1195. So he's 12%. It's not good enough. You need to come out at about 125% to show any real progress. Algae's at 147%, 447 over 304. I think that's about it for part 3. I think I'll put these 3 parts up first, and then I'll continue the King Sirasani analysis. And I just want to say, I don't bear the guy any ill will. He's just like the rest of the sinfluencers, covering, sort of doing this dance with the casinos and trying to make more money from Moogle than the cash cow, right? It's a joke. More money from Moogle than they lose at gambling. And, so he is honor bound. No, honor is the wrong word. He is, for self-preservation purposes, required to tell us lies. He's got to pretend that he's ahead. And of course he is in real terms, because he's making more money from views than he's losing at the tables. And that could well be Sirasani's plan. He's going to bet flat. He's going to show us the videos where the player edge runs amok, and show us the successful moments, and then he's just going to sort of like bury the videos where the house edge bites hard and puts him in trouble. And the way to minimize the damage, of course, in his mind at least, might be bet flat. And then, you're just basically following trends up and down. And that may be what he's about. But I haven't seen any evidence to confirm that he's the best blackjack player in America. And I think that I'd put up Algae, pattern betting's Algae, against him any day of the week. But there we are. So back to the top. Back to just look at that and this here, which explains why pattern betting works so well. You get these leaps ahead even when you're getting bloody killed. But then with Sirasani's data set, there's no real bloodshed. I mean, right now, the worst we've seen is a house edge of 0.8%, less than 1% against the player, in other words. And then the other 2 sessions of the 3 that I've covered so far were very emphatically player-friendly, player edges. So there you have it. Okay, bye-bye.